One of the things I wonder about is what standards do people have challenge implementing or complying with?
We had a large shop. When I was a chief auditor, we had about 80 folks. And so we had someone in charge of methodology and standards, quality. So in that case, we had the opportunity to have leverage and scale that maybe some smaller shops don't. But nonetheless, the biggest issue was probably 1210 around competencies, knowledge and skills. And so a lot of our time went into onboarding, training, hiring. Actually recruiting was a major focus in terms of getting the right skill sets. And we were always looking for folks that had the right competencies and behaviors, less about what was on the resume or even Big Four private audit experience, more about just could they pick up and understand the business quickly and the critical thinking skills. That was our biggest focus and I think our biggest challenge.
Well, one of the first things you do coming into a chief audit executive position is pull out the standards and start going through them to think about, okay, how do I see the standards lining up to the organization that I'm coming into? And as I'm going through them, I come to the governance standard 2110. And that one always, you pause on that one because when you think about governance, it's such a wide, broad topic. And as I came to understand ethics and how the organization is applying ethical practices within the organization, the reporting of findings within the organization and controls and risks, how the organization is structuring itself and how it's managing performance. Those are all sort of areas that internal auditing can get into and are actually sweet spots for us as well. So I found that was thought was going to be the more difficult, but actually as I start to move through that standard, I thought, yeah, we've got that covered off.
So how much is the board aware of, or the audit committee aware of, the standards and any challenges you have as the head of internal audit or even broader risk?
I know in the organizations that I was at and the organizations I've seen out in practice that really it's up to the chief auditor to really, more times than not, to put in front of the audit committee or board members, here's how we do our work. Here's the standards. Here's the external expectation for a review, and then to present to them the findings of those reviews, as well as your internal QA process.
As CAE, obviously, you're well versed in the standards, but sometimes translating that down to every staff member might be a little challenging, particularly if you're bringing in new people and they don't have necessarily an internal audit background.
Yeah, I found in larger groups or in groups where it doesn't actually, size may not matter as much. You're so focused on the work. What work papers, what audit program, et cetera. So you're going through the steps and maybe even the supervisory steps, but you're not necessarily making the connection to the IPPF. And so what we did in our overall manuals, each of our policy areas, as well as in our templates, we had some extensive footnoting, if you will. This applies, you're doing this because of standard XYZ. You're doing this because of this reason or this practice guide, et cetera. And so that created a connection.
What do you do when you need help? Do you go look at the IIA website? You talk to your peers? What do you do when you're not sure?
Well, yeah, I mean, the IIA website is an excellent resource. It really is. And if you're a member of the Audit Committee Executive Center, that's another element of resource. I've found quite good information in there. If you ever have a challenge, I've never felt I couldn't ask a question of anybody within the IA to get some ideas or some direction in terms of where to go. And then there's outside third parties that are also out there that will help a hand if you ask them.